6 months ago, when I started my third year of medical school, I just decided that it was about time for me to start waking up when I decided that I was going to wake up. So I just chose to wake up at 4:30 for every single day of my life. And it might seem crazy at first, but the thought process was actually very simple. I just asked myself, okay, the ideal version of myself, the most accomplished version of myself, when do they wake up? If they have the choice to wake up at any time, right? 4:30 came up on my mind because I had already done it for a couple of times, but I couldn't really stick to it. But the only thing that I could remember is was not really that I couldn't stick to it, but it was that I felt an incredible amount of control over my life, despite me being in pretty much the worst period of my life. I had to pass my IB exams, I was studying all the time, but simply the fact that I could control when I could wake up really helped me to just feel like I was in control, even though I kind of wasn't. And that brought me to just wake up at 4:30, whether I have school, whether I have to study, whether I have absolutely nothing planned, I just do. And that really taught me that discipline does not really exist. Discipline does not really work. It's only about what you are willing to sacrifice. Because, of course, I cannot just on a whim go out and watch a movie at like 11 p.m. that is going to end up 1 a.m. Like, that stuff has to be planned out in advance, for me at least. Or else, I know that, okay, tomorrow I'm going to be sleep deprived, I'm going to probably have a headache, etc. So, it's only about what you're willing to sacrifice. But I noticed that I didn't really have to do that much, because if it ever came to me, for example, have to go out with some friends to a restaurant, I'm not going to say, hey guys, it's bedtime, I gotta go home and sleep at 8:30. Not really. I just get home wherever I get home, and then for the next day, I wake up at 4:30, drink a cup of coffee or two, and just get through my day. And you best believe that at the next day, I'm going to be back on schedule. Because the problem is, whenever you say, for example, okay, let me just go to sleep whenever I feel like and wake up whenever I feel like to get those 8 hours of sleep, right? I tried that, and I ended up just waking up at 11 a.m. Because at night, that's where temptation comes in, right? The temptation to just keep playing video games. And by the way, I love video games, and even that has allowed me to just play them more without feeling guilty about playing them more. But also, scrolling, okay? Have you ever heard someone who wakes up at 4:30 to just start scrolling? That doesn't exist. That literally doesn't exist. But of course, all of the night owls out there that say that they are productive at 2 a.m., most of the times they really aren't. They're just scrolling or doing some basic tasks that they could have just put to tomorrow and went to sleep. And also, another benefit, but like that sounds obvious, but it's actually not, is the fact that your days are incredibly longer. Even if I have to end my workday at 5 p.m. because I have to eat at 6 p.m. and go to bed by 8:30 p.m., the fact that I have been up since 4:30 with energy, with focus, with nobody ringing my phone, and just me and my tasks, I was even done before 5 p.m. And that leaves me to just enough time to just play video games, talk to my loved ones, and just be in an environment where I know, okay, I've done my work. Now I can enjoy myself. And that is exactly how I have been raised, right? During my weeks, for example, when I was little in Italy, I loved video games, but I couldn't play them during the week. right? And that is one of the best decisions that my parents ever made, because I know that, for example, when I was a kid, I would have played all day, every day, right? But where would that have led me? Absolutely nowhere, right? During the weekends, you best believe I was blasting the PS4. But during the week, I was doing whatever I could do, which was not that much. So there wasn't really anything else nice to do besides going out and, studying and doing my homework, right? But when my friends weren't available, I didn't really have that much choice. So whenever you give yourself that freedom to just enjoy yourself whenever you want, you don't really enjoy yourself, because you know that you haven't even earned the fact that you need to enjoy yourself, right? And you might think, oh, but what happens when you feel like you're burning out and you don't really feel like you can work harder? Burnout does not come from you waking up at 4:30. Burnout does not come from you studying 12 hours a day, okay? Burnout comes from stress. And stress comes when you feel like you have absolutely no control over anything that you do in your life. So, it has absolutely nothing to do with that. And I can guarantee you, I have been doing it for 6 months. I plan on doing it for my entire life. And I have never even experienced a shiver of burnout. And yes, I do a lot of introspection. I do meditation. So it's not like I am never taking time to ask myself, oh, am I going too hard? Or, oh, am I going too little? Like, you need to really stop believing that you cannot do it just because it feels hard at first, right? You may have seen the title of this video and thinking, oh, damn, this guy is really disciplined. The last thing I use whenever I have to wake up is discipline, because I know exactly what my day will look like if I ever wake up at 12 or 1 p.m. I feel terrible. So it doesn't really take me that much discipline to just avoid feeling terrible, right? If you know that if you sleep in, you end up just feeling absolutely horrible. Your brain does not like when you feel horrible. So your brain is naturally going to shift itself towards feeling better. And that is how now, for me, it's even easier waking up at 4:30 and even being a little bit sleep deprived than just sleeping in uncontrollably until whenever I feel like waking up, right? Because if it was that important, right, to get those 8 hours of sleep for you, you wouldn't be scrolling at 2 a.m., right? So you cannot really use that as an excuse to say, oh, damn, I slept late, so now I deserve more sleep for tomorrow, and I deserve to ruin tomorrow's day as well. That is just a vicious cycle. And you really have to understand that there are many things in your life that you cannot control, okay? Absolutely too many things. But the one thing that you can control is not even when you go to bed, because once again, life happens and sometimes you cannot be in bed by 8:30, right? But the one thing that you can control is when you wake up. Nobody, absolutely nobody, can tell you that that is not true. If you hear your alarm, okay, and you hit snooze, you had the choice to wake up or hitting snooze. You chose to hit snooze. Some people choose to wake up and start their day and take responsibility for it during the day, right? But at the end of the day, it's going to be your decision. And I'm going to end this video by saying this one thing. How can you expect to feel like you have control over your life if you're not even in control of the first action that you do in your days, which is waking up? You cannot expect that.